that could have ended up in disaster. This guy needed to let off the power on the engine, on the main rotors. If he had done that, it would have slowed down the spinning of the fuselage of the aircraft. Now, this is like being on that teacup ride that I hate at the amusement park. You know, once it gets spinning, boy, your head's going this way or that way. And once he gets into 1 or 2 rotations, it's just impossible to even fixate on anything or look outside. And a couple seconds later, he's in the trees. So had he let off the power, the rotation of the fuselage would have slowed down a little bit, and he might have been able to pull up on the collective at the end to cushion the blow. Fortunately, I think he hit those trees and that cushioned the blow a little bit. What was my incident? I flew King Airs for a couple of years. I've got about 1,400 hours altogether in King Airs. It's a twin engine turboprop aircraft. Now, one of the things that they train you for in that aircraft is if you get into something that's called VMC air, and VMC air happens in a variety of different situations, but it's a situation where one of the wings is the airflow to the wing is being blocked and the aircraft becomes uncontrollable. In other words, you've got all your aileron in, all your rudder in, and you still can't stop the turning of the aircraft. And sometimes it's called a skidded turn stall or an approach turn stall, where you get that loss of lift over one of your wings, so significant that the airplane begins to roll over and you can't do anything, and it just, you know, kind of bellies in or backs into the ground upside down. So this happened to me when I was training students back in the training command, and I had gotten the one student in the seat, and we rotated off the ground, and the aircraft rotated, or it yawed violently right after rotate. I was not sure what went wrong. I looked at both of my engines, and they were both producing full power. At that moment, just like this helicopter pilot, the temptation is to cob on even more power because you're in a panic and you think power is my friend. It's not always your friend. Now, for those of you guys that are out there, my pilot friends and everything, going, these are not the same situations. I understand that. I'm not talking about them being the identical situation. I'm talking about the counterintuitive part of the reaction of the pilot. That's what I'm describing right now. I was trained, if you ever got into a VMC air situation, to grab the outboard engine. So in other words, if the airplane is rolling to the right, you're going to grab the left engine. And I'm telling you, my friends, this is the hardest thing in the world. It's the hardest thing I've ever done as a pilot. I reached over and grabbed that left engine and I pulled back on the power. And as I pulled back on the power, it arrested the roll of the aircraft. I pulled back a little bit more and it began to right the aircraft. I pulled it all the way back to idle and the aircraft leveled off. I was at about 20 feet off the ground when I did all this.